Environment for development.
Accidental hero. A woman trying to escape one of Milton's tornadoes helps save lives.
We're all alive, and that's what matters.
And what caused Milton to spawn so many twists?
To its setup meteorologically.
Hurricane modification, setting the record straight on our ability to control the weather.
The atmospheric conditions don't favor rain, so you're not going to make it rain.
And it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How you can see this rare comet before it disappears for 80,000 years.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Janae Bowens. Less than a week after Hurricane Milton blasted across Florida, we're watching another possible storm in the Atlantic. It's still far away, but if it develops, we could be talking about Nadine in less than a week. Meteorologist Jennifer Collins is tracking the tropics for us this morning.
We're monitoring a wave moving across the central Atlantic, kind of interacting with dry air at this time. But once it moves towards the Lesser Antilles, it will move into more favorable environment for development. Could see maybe a tropical depression form in this general area. Just something to monitor, though, as it heads towards the Bahamas. We're expecting a frontal boundary to move in by the end of this week and into next week, and that might help to block any sort of system from really approaching our region. And then this area near Central America has about a 30% chance of development. Will bring heavy rainfall to Central America here over the next couple of days. So as I mentioned, could see some sort of development occur near the Lesser Antilles once it moves towards the Greater Antilles and the Bahamas, kind of interacting with a frontal boundary, which will kind of weaken the system and keep it over open waters.
Turning now to the latest on the recovery from Milton, fewer than 200,000 homes and businesses are still without power this morning. Officials expect most of those folks to be back online later tonight. And in Central Florida, there's a flood threat. Many rivers are still rising today as the water that fell during Milton works its way downstream. Another problem is a shortage of fuel. Hundreds of stations, including half in the Tampa area, don't have any gas. On the East Coast, communities are cleaning up following that large tornado outbreak. Vicky De Cardenas is north of Palm Beach with more.
The community of Port Salerno has been trying to pick up the pieces after an EF1 tornado ripped through the area. We spoke with residents just days after the storm. Devin Gore's childhood home was leveled.
We're just trying to collect, what was left from the home.
And sadly, what many residents are finding is there isn't much that's salvageable. Memories are now piles of debris. They can't be replaced, but local organizations are stepping up to help create new ones.
The Boys and Girls Club, Christ Fellowship, Justin Simmons sent some people, NFL player. It's just a blessing that we have a wonderful community that can support us like this at a time like this.
Care packages are filled with basic items like food and water just to get people through the next few days.
That's one thing about this town of Port Salerno. Everybody pretty much sticks together and we're close. We're a tight unit. So I'm just thankful that everybody's helping out.
And one of the people helping out is Port Salerno native Ricky Graham. He's using his parents' house as a donation hub. Ricky says many people can't leave the community, so he wanted to bring the supplies to them.
We were not expecting this generous turnout that we have for all of the community. Like my grandmother always used to say, it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Now, 2 other tornadoes touched down in St. Lucie County, leaving 6 people dead. Dylan Huberman has the story of a community member who inadvertently saved lives while trying to escape.
We're all alive, and that's what matters.
Last Wednesday, Michelle Westfield was unknowingly heading right for a tornado.
And I just started seeing the debris flying around and really just went into panic mode. I was on the phone with my husband, and I was screaming to him, there's a tornado, and I said, I can't get home. I can't turn left. I got to go right.
That turnoff took her away from her home in the Spanish Lakes community off Turnpike Feeder Road, which was completely destroyed by tornadoes, causing 6 confirmed deaths. She saw the twister responsible for all this and went into fight or flight mode. I
just saw stuff flying and spinning and coming closer to me. And I didn't know what to do. I said, I can't go forward because that's where it is. So I just was terrified, so I put it in reverse and gunned it, went flying backwards as fast as I could, laying on the horn and screaming.
She ended up at Nino's a few blocks away where she stayed safe.
And my house is standing and we're standing.
However, what Westfield described as her panic mode ended up saving many lives. Residents along Winter Garden Parkway told CBS 12 News that they heard her horn and sought shelter and took to Facebook to thank her.
All I can say is God puts us where we're supposed to be. I'm not a hero. I'm like, I was an old lady in panic mode. That's all I am. That was it.
Now, while tornadoes are common during hurricanes, the number that occurred during Milton is unusual. Meteorologist Charlotte Carl explains how so many tornadoes all had to do with the perfect ingredients.
So when Milton was about 200 miles off the Florida coastline, we were set up in the right jet entrance region of the jet stream, which is essentially the southwestern quadrant of the subtropical jet stream. That is an area that is ripe for severe weather to develop, especially when we're talking about cold fronts as they dip to the south. But for this one, because it was in that area of the jet stream, and also we were in the northeastern quadrant of Milton, we were kind of between these two things that really contributed to the strength of the storms that developed. We had really good shear in the area, really high amounts of shear. It was medium as Milton was approaching our area because Milton kind of went through that shredding period once it got closer to the coastline where we saw it kind of fall apart. We also had very high amounts of lift as a result of those two factors that I just mentioned. Now, in terms of the instability that we did have medium amounts of that in the area, mostly because we saw some clearing throughout the day. We saw some clouds move out. We got warm throughout the day. That contributes to a little bit more of that energy in the atmosphere. And we also had high amounts of moisture. Because the tropical system was approaching, we received all of its tropical moisture in advance of it actually arriving.
Now, in the wake of Helene and Milton, there's been a lot of buzz online about hurricane modification. Now, there have even been conspiracy theories suggesting that these storms were manufactured by the government. Now, to address those rumors, Emily Gracie sat down with the former chief scientist of Project Storm Fury, NOAA's only hurricane modification project.
In the 60s, Project Storm Fury started. And the idea was you'd seed around the eye, stimulate the clouds to grow, and form a new eye wall encircling the old one. And that would then contract and strangle the old eye wall. And while it was strangling the old eye wall, the winds would be reduced. They were really jumpy about it. So we studied unmodified hurricanes. And what we found was there was a lot of natural ice down to just about to the freezing level, so cloud seeding wouldn't have much room to work. And they also, unmodified hurricanes, form an outer eye wall, and it contracts around the inner one, and the inner one falls apart. And no intervention by humans.
So what people would hear now as an eye wall replacement cycle is what was happening there.
And I wrote the papers that introduced that concept. It had been people had seen concentric eye walls, but they didn't put the pieces together. And I wrote the Project Storm Fury paper that caused the project to its demise.
It's got to be hard to figure out if this ever works because there's no control, right?
You can't get a control. You can't do statistics. And the real fallacy is you can't create water by cloud seeding. And if there's not enough water, and if there's not the atmospheric conditions don't favor rain, you're not going to make it rain. Really, I just think that weather modification isn't something we're going to do.
Now, if you want to take a deeper dive into hurricanes and weather modification, past, present, and future, you must check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. Emily will also address many of the conspiracy theories that have been circulating about the storms. Find Off the Radar anywhere you listen to podcasts. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, NASA's Europa Clipper is on the way to one of Jupiter's largest moons. We'll look at what they hope to find. And we'll show you some of the hazards leaves can pose during the fall season.
I'm meteorologist Emily Stanton. Let's check out some of the highs for the Northeast for today. Another cool day, temps mostly in the 40s and 50s, looking at much cooler conditions up in upstate New York, northern New Hampshire as well. As we head down to southern New England, more of a mild day, temperatures in the mid to upper 50s, 57 degrees in Boston, 57 down in New York, 60 in Atlantic City. Looking at partly to mostly cloudy conditions due to an upper level low, chances of rain and snow at higher elevations around the region.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Mostly dry going into the next couple days, but it's going to see a couple of those showers that pop up, especially towards the mountainous regions with this colder air settling in. That'll be on your Tuesday. It'll be windy coming in on Wednesday as that colder air still settles in. Temperatures will be chilly to start in the 30s with frost around. We'll only reach the upper 50s to low 60s on your Tuesday and Wednesday with the exception of the mountains.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. We have a frontal boundary that is actively moving through the area. To the north, we have high temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s, and then to the south, we're dealing with the low 80s. We do have some isolated showers expected in South Florida through your Tuesday morning, and we could see some redevelopment in the afternoon when the sea breeze develops. Main story is going to be that frontal boundary making its way through the area. By Wednesday morning, it looks like it'll be moving through South Florida and then pushing out by Wednesday evening.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
NASA's Europa Clipper is on the way to one of Jupiter's largest moons. As meteorologist Allison Gottlieb reports, there are hopes the lengthy journey will help researchers eventually learn if people can live there.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
The start of a 1.8 billion mile, 5.5-year journey. NASA's Europa Clipper took off Monday from the Kennedy Space Center. The probe is headed for its namesake, Jupiter's Europa moon, with hopes of finding an ocean underneath its icy exterior.
So Europa Clipper mission is going to go to Europa with state-of-the-art instrumentation to try and revisit places we have seen before with other spacecraft and get new data at much higher resolution, both exploring the surface and the subsurface to try and understand Europa better.
University of Oregon professor and planetologist Carol Patty helped develop 2 of the 9 tools the probe will use to complete its mission. The 100-foot spacecraft, the largest ever built for a planetary mission, is not expected to land on Europa. Instead, it will do 49 flybys scientists hope will reveal whether the moon could be habitable.
What's really unique about Europa is that ocean is more than 100 kilometers deep. Much deeper than anything we've ever known here on Earth. And it's completely covered by an ice shell that's up to tens of kilometers thick. So that's very foreign to us.
Patty says the thickness of the ice matters. We don't have the capability to drill through 30 kilometers of ice. Do we have the capability to drill through 5 kilometers of ice? We might. If that's the case, the mission will open a new door of possibility, one where scientists say NASA could even send a lander or submarine below the surface to literally search for signs of life.
Staying in space, the Atlas Comet has been putting on a show this week, and there's still plenty of time for you to see it. Meteorologist Kevin Koskren explains why the comet is visible right now, how long it will be in the night sky, and how you can get the best views.
Attention stargazers, we have a comet viewable this week, and you'll be able to see it for each of the next few nights. Just look to the west at just after sunset. It's the A3 Atlas Comet, visible, yes, for the next several nights. This picture was taken by storm chaser David Gady, keeping the shutter open here. Check how beautiful that is. the thing shoots down. Now, this comet was discovered last year, as a matter of fact. Look at this video sent in by Chris Novi. There it is right there. I mean, that is awesome. I want to check this out as we head over the next couple of nights. Now, how do you do it? It's not too hard. Just look west after the sun goes down for the next few nights. It'll be visible as we head through October 19th. And it was discovered, yes, last year, visible for about 45 minutes after sunset. And the sunset this time of year is just before 7 o'clock. And this will return to our skies in roughly 80,000 years.
The spotted lanternflies are pretty insects, but their damage is ugly to folks in agriculture. Now, they've been found in at least 17 states. Molly Levine is in Rhode Island, where the insect's population has exploded.
The spotted lanternfly, a sap-feeding plant hopper from China, currently spreading throughout the mid-Atlantic. The insect feeds on fruit, ornamental, and hardwood trees, but prefers the invasive tree of heaven. DEM is especially concerned about finding the insect in places near busy transportation hubs.
We're mostly concerned about them hitching a ride from one of these commerce areas where they are low risk to a place where they are more high risk.
This is what a spotted lanternfly looks like, and you might think, oh, what a beautiful moth, right? Wrong. It's actually a deadly insect, not to humans or pets, but to agriculture. And as you can imagine, for farmers like those at Greenvale Vineyards, these 76 acres are their livelihood. So it's a nightmare. I spent the day with Nancy Parker Wilson touring the vineyard. When I asked her to show me where she had cut down Tree of Heaven 3 years ago, she realized it was back. It's the main tree the spotted lanternflies feed on. So we spent Friday morning together too, getting rid of it on the property.
We survive on our grapes. If you lose your fruit, you lose your product.
It's not a risk Nancy is willing to take, and she encourages other farmers to take action too. DEM says they get nearly 100 reports a day of spotted lanternflies, and they can't keep up. If you see one,
basically the general message is step on it. The more we get now, the less eggs will be laid.
Now, fall foliage can be beautiful, but the dead leaves can pose a real risk when you're in your car. Meteorologist John Gum explains.
Well, as the seasons change across the country, one of the things we start thinking about are travel impacts due to snow and ice as things get colder. But one thing you might not think so much about is the travel impact that wet leaves can have on the roadways. It's almost equivalent to ice as far as how it increases your stopping distance. I've got 3 cars here traveling along. One stops on dry pavement. Now, when you stop on dry pavement, let's say the stopping distance with dry pavement for any of these cars is about 80 feet. All right? When the pavement gets wet, though, that stopping distance increases. It doubles to about 160 feet. That's just on wet pavement. However, when you add wet leaves into the equation, something we're going to see a lot of in the coming weeks, that stopping distance can grow upwards of 250 feet on those wet leaves. They could also give you trouble going around corners. So something to keep in mind this autumn season in the parts of the country that have the deciduous trees where the leaves are falling. On rainy days, when you get those leaves falling, it can be hazardous on the roadways, not only increasing your stopping distance, but giving you handling issues similar to an ice-covered road.
We're currently in the height of pumpkin season. If you still need to get your fall pumpkins, you may want to pick up more than one. Liz Bonus shares why pumpkins are one of the healthiest foods you can eat.
Oh. That's the one you want to do, pal?
Scarlett and Ruthie came out today to pick the perfect pumpkin.
We look for mostly the size that they can carry so that I don't have to carry everything.
At just 3 and 5 years old, their mom, Caitlin Gunther, says that's no easy task here at Kentucky's McGlasson Farms. Luke McGlasson's family owns this farm.
So from someone who knows pumpkins, is there something that you should or shouldn't look for?
I mean, depending on your taste, you might you want one that's ripe, fully orange. But like some people like the partially green ones.
Luke says fairy tale pumpkins are the best for eating.
They've got the darkest interior color.
And the darker the orange color, the more beta-carotene, a powerful antioxidant which protects the body from cell injury.
So quick question, have you picked out your pumpkin yet?
Oh, no, not yet.
Lindsay Yeager Autry and her daughter Lily said they look for the big round pumpkins.
Lily's actually designed some pumpkin tarts that she's been working on with her school.
Those pumpkins are called jack-o'-lantern pumpkins.
The jack-o'-lantern pumpkins have tons of seeds.
And aside from the color, the seeds in a pumpkin contain some of the second most powerful pumpkin nutrients. They're linked to apoptosis, which kills cells linked to diseases such as cancer.
And time now for a short break, but first, we take in scenes from Norway covered in a blanket of snow.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Some scattered light rain across the Ohio Valley, kind of moving its way out of here for the day today, but it's cool. Most of the Midwest having high temperatures in the 50s today. Wichita gets to 64. As we head into the day tomorrow, more sunshine slowly starting to come back out. We slowly start warming up as well tomorrow, even more so by Thursday with some 80s there in the Dakotas.
Good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today. Starting out with some pretty comfortable temperatures. Pretty hot one, though, across Texas. Look at those 90s. In some cases, we're talking about record high temperatures. Next weather maker for the region. Not much of a rain chance with it, but there's a big temperature swing coming with this front. Notice as we go into Wednesday morning, look at those lows, 30s and 40s, 50s. And then the afternoon, Wednesday, a little bit of a gusty breeze, but how much cooler is this? Look at that, 60s and 70s for highs.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we're finally starting to cool down. Phoenix, welcome to the club. Below 100, that is. 96 degrees today in the Valley of the Sun. It's been a long, hot summer that went deep into fall, didn't it? Upper 60s today in the City by the Bay and 75 in Missoula. High pressure still sitting closer to the Four Corners, but here comes some cold and wet weather pushing toward the Pacific Northwest this week. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, there's an effort to restore native plants along a California creek to help salmon. Sophia Bruinsma reports.
Out with the old, in with the native. Dead brush pushed to the side of an old walnut farm, now replaced with over 21 different tree species that are indigenous to the area. The goal is to support the salmon population, as Battle Creek is one of the last streams in California supporting all 4 runs of Chinook and steelhead salmon. The Bureau of Land Management has been working on this project for almost 20 years. River Partners were able to do the planning that started in 2014, which was initially hard to get funded. A proposal was written to the California Wildlife Conservation Board, and it got funded in May of 2023.
And so we broke ground last year in July and started field implementation and doing some of the ops to get ready for planting.
The restoration of this land is something Native member Harold Mitchell appreciates because this effort also restores the elderberry plant, in which the branch is used to make flutes in traditional ceremonies.
And for us, so Native can have a place where we can call home again.
so much for joining us. I'm Janae Bowens. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.